McLennan. I'm from the McLennan Collective. I'm here with Peter Bushby from Peter Bushby Real Estate today to talk about housing affordability and negative gearing. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Richard. Good to be with you.
And so, Peter, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Well, I'm a Launceston-based real estate agent, more than 40 years' experience. I've been lucky enough to be state president of the Real Estate Institute here in Tasmania, and I had 2 years as national president of the Real Estate Institute of Australia. So I've been involved in a lot of the policy development and so on for the industry as a whole, and certainly at the forefront is negative gearing and housing affordability and all the issues that go with that, and tax reform as well as a broader scenario. But today I'd certainly like to sort of discuss primarily negative gearing and how that fits in with housing affordability.
Excellent. So, but first off, we've got to say that these are your own opinions, and
absolutely, they're my thoughts and opinions.
Excellent, excellent. So what is negative gearing and how does it work?
Look, simply in my terms, it's the capacity for taxpayers who have investments that they can claim the losses on those investments against other income, and that enables them to work towards creating a value in the investment, and at a later point in time any profits are subject to capital gains tax.
Excellent, excellent. And so why is the topic of negative gearing in the spotlight or in the news as we speak?
Look, I think as much as anything else at the moment, whilst it's been left alone for decades, and both parties, major parties, have been fairly compliant with and comfortable with the scenario. In the lead up to the last election, Labor obviously decided, I presume for a political point of difference, to go in a different way, and now we've got the media sort of following it very, very closely, and obviously it's becoming a political hot potato that shouldn't be, in my view.
Yeah, right. And so what are the concerns about negative gearing? Does it add to the rental housing stock or not really?
Look, rental stocks, and it was proven, rents went up at one stage back in the 80s when Hawke was Prime Minister and Keating was Treasurer. They removed negative gearing, and they found that rents went up, and very quickly reinstated it, and it's been the status quo for the last 30 years or so. Unfortunately, with the changes, it's very, very likely that we would see property values decline, and in fact not just rental properties, it could end up being everybody's property around the country. So if you own a property, I'd be fairly concerned if negative gearing gets played with too much.
Mm. And so what happened with negative gearing when it was removed in the 1980s?
Well,
touched on that,
effectively rents went up, and the argument is that by some economists, and obviously not everybody's going to agree with my comments, and that's fine, but effectively some people say that property prices will come down and so on, and making it more affordable, but the reality is that a lot of people have commitments, and it's important that values are retained.
Mm. And what are your thoughts on, is housing affordability the same across the country?
No, that's one of the biggest problems we've got. I think obviously the inner city, particularly centres of Sydney, Melbourne, and to a degree Brisbane, have got some really hot spots, and if geographically everybody can't live in the one spot, and so there's extreme competition, and the prices are certainly very strong. Investors obviously want to buy in the same locations because there are opportunities for rental investment and growth. So it's one of those things that you can't completely disseminate from the equation. But if you go around the country, regional Australia, there are lots of good buyers. The difficulty is having the employment to sustain the purchase. So, but no, look, it's a very much a varied property market right around the country. In Hobart, things are going along pretty strongly, very strongly. In fact, north of the state here, it's lesser, but it is improving, and we hope it will continue to improve.
And so what is the broader benefit of giving people an incentive to buy an investment property using the capacity to negatively gear the investment?
Look, it's an opportunity for people to get ahead and create some wealth for their retirement. It's interesting. I think the numbers are something like 80% of negatively geared investors are actually only own the one property, and of those, I think it's in the order of 80% of the people actually earn less than $80,000 a year. So it's not really the domain of the rich and wealthy. Sure, on the other end of the scale, there are some people who own a lot of property and are able to claim a lot. If there was one concession, I would think I think nothing should be changed other than perhaps limit the number of properties that can be negatively geared, and that obviously the quantum of that is up to those who make the decisions to decide. But something like 4 or 6 would probably be sensible.
Yeah, that's a really, really good idea, I think. And so do you agree with any other changes to the existing arrangements?
No, look, I think playing with it is got the potential to severely affect not only Australian property prices, but also the economy nationally in itself. And I think that is very, very risky, playing with such an important part of the Australian economy, and property is one of the biggies as far as contributing to our national wealth.
And lastly, is there a tendency to see the entire Australian property market through the prism of inner city and suburban major city hotspots in Sydney and Melbourne?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I can't help but think that a lot of the time the journos who are writing the stories, they seem to be the ones that are affected. They're obviously based in offices in Sydney and Melbourne, and they seem to be sort of writing their own life story as far as their experience goes with it. And the reality is that there's a lot more to Australia than just Sydney and Melbourne.
Exactly.
And the reaction often is based on dealing with Sydney and Melbourne scenarios, and they have more unintended consequences to the rest of Australia at times. And I think it's something that needs to be contemplated more often.
Well, it's certainly a topical conversation. Well, thank you, Peter, for sharing today.
Pleasure.
Now, what's your thoughts on what your topic is going to be next week?
Look, here in Tasmania, we've actually got new legislation coming into play. Property Agents Land Transactions Act is due to, I think, at this stage to take effect on the 1st of April. So next week I thought it would be quite appropriate to talk about the changes that are going to occur both to real estate agency practice and also to the purchase of property and sale of property here in Tasmania.
Sounds good. So that's going to be with your new Facebook Live broadcast, Property Talk, at 12 o'clock next Thursday.
That is correct. We plan to continue it on a regular basis, and with a bit of luck, make it entertaining for you and topical. If you have any subjects you'd like to have us address, please contact us, and we'll endeavour to do so. Just while I'm at it, I'm here. A couple of open homes this Saturday. There's one at 4 Iris Close at Riverside. It's a unit. It's 209,000. It's open 9:30 to 10. Details of that one are on the website. I'll be there. And Peter Darrow, who's working with me, will be opening 112 King Street out of Westbury. That's priced at $325. It's a character home with old stables and lots of extra space. That's going to be open between 11:30 and 12. And again, go to my website, www.peterbushby.com.au for further details. A couple of interesting new listings that are in the pipeline. Just I'll throw those in while I've got some sort of captive audience at this stage. A couple of new listings that are about to be built out at Kings Meadows, at a site at 16 Shirley Place. 2-bedroom units, single garage, handy to the shops, and they'll be priced at $275,000. So if you get in early, you can secure one of those. I suspect they'll sell pretty quickly. And I've just listed 3 blocks over at Jingles Creek, and they're bigger blocks. They're sort of substantial size. They're a low-density residential subdivision there, and the prices on those vary from $159 to $169. So they'll be going up on the website, details on both the units and those blocks over the weekend. So if you've got any queries in the meantime, just give me a call, 0419 349 500.
Sounds good. Well, I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good day.